Federal judge in Oregon has blocked Donald Trump's attempt to call up 200 Oregon National Guard troops to Portland under a restraining order. The court found that Trump's deployment exceeded his statutory authority under 10 U.S.C. Section 12406, violated the 10th Amendment by intruding on state sovereignty, and violated the Posse Comitatus Act that limits the U.S. military's role in enforcing domestic law. In its ruling, the court emphasized that the protests at the ICE facility in Portland had, in the weeks before the order, been relatively quiet and manageable by existing local and federal law enforcement. The judge held that Donald Trump's determination lacked a, quote, colorable basis. In other words, it was insufficiently tied to the facts on the ground, aka he was lying about it, and she rejected the view that tensions everywhere in the country or speculative future danger could justify federalizing the Guard in Oregon. As a result, for now, the federalization order is paused while the case proceeds. Barring further appeals, the Guard cannot be deployed under this order. I'll keep you posted as the legal battle continues. Spread the word and listen to the Midas Touch podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify for more.
Guys, democracy is still working in full effect. A Trump-appointed federal judge blocked Trump's desire to send the National Guard into Portland, Oregon. Now, y'all's president and his people are going out front saying that Portland is war-ravaged, their quote, war-ravaged, and that they need to send the National Guard in to get everything under control, that there's rebellion and everything going on. And the plan was to send 200 of Portland's National Guard against the wishes of the governor into the city. Well, the U.S. District Judge, Karen Immergut, basically said, absolutely not, sir. There's nothing going on here that rises to the things that you're describing, and nothing about what you put in this brief are tethered to the facts. Portland Mayor Keith Wilson said essentially that this is a manufactured narrative and nothing about what's being described is actually going on in reality. And of course, y'all's president appealed it. So there's a temporary restraining order on sending the National Guard until the 18th of this month, and then it goes to an appeals court, I believe in San Francisco or something. So here we are, y'all, pushing back little by little. I mean, it's like AOC said, it's the perception of power, and it's the perception of inevitability that causes people to roll over in advance and surrender in advance and say, what's the point? I mean, I see it in the comment section every day, all day. Oh, what's the point? Oh, he's going to get away with it. Oh, what's the point? And, you know, he's not going to follow the law. Anyway, you cannot surrender in advance. You use the tools at your disposal in the meantime, between time. And shout out once again to our federal court system, who is working overtime to push back against this regime.
A Trump-appointed judge just did the unthinkable, blocked him from sending the military into Portland, issuing a restraining order over concerns related to martial law. This ruling just came down this evening. Let's get into it. District Court Judge Karen Immergut wrote in her ruling that the administration's claims of daily unrest in Portland were, quote, untethered to the facts and risked plunging the nation into an unconstitutional form of military rule. Quote, this is a nation of constitutional law, not martial law. Now, this restraining order or stay is temporary. It lasts for 2 weeks, and the administration is going to appeal to the Ninth Circuit. This is the same federal appeal circuit that heard the Los Angeles case and restored the administration's right to send the National Guard back into LA. However, District Court Judge Immergut said the protests in Portland don't rise to the level of severity to justify doing so. And when those of us on the left said, hey, he's going to try and militarize and declare martial law, you called us crazy. But now a Trump-appointed federal judge has the same concerns. What do you know?
Take a look at Stephen Miller's reaction to a Trump-appointed judge shutting down Trump's attempt to send the National Guard to Portland. He calls this a legal insurrection. The president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, not an Oregon judge. Portland and Oregon law enforcement, at the direction of local leaders, have refused to aid ICE officers facing relentless terrorist assault and threats to life. Going on to say this is an organized terrorist attack on the federal government and its officers, and the deployment of troops is an absolute necessity to defend our personnel, our laws, our government, public order, and the republic itself. Keeping in mind what he just said, we need to remember the history of 1930s Germany holding rallies in left-wing areas of Germany. They would instigate street fights and then tell the press that only they could save Germany from the violent communists. Seems like an important thing for people to be studying right now. Now take a look at this video of federal agents storming out of an ICE facility and arresting peaceful protesters in Portland. Keep in mind, all of this is happening as right-wing figures are cheering this on as law and order. When you need troops, tear gas, and armored officials to deal with peaceful protesters, it's no longer about safety, it's about control. We can't keep ignoring the historical parallels. This is exactly how authoritarianism takes root.
Citing the risk of martial law, a federal judge in Oregon, appointed by Donald Trump no less, tonight stops Trump, at least temporarily, from sending the National Guard to Oregon. The judge, Karen Immergut, basically found that the state of Oregon was likely to succeed in its case against Trump, saying that it was illegal under the U.S. Constitution for him to be sending the National Guard to Portland. So therefore, she issued a temporary restraining order stopping Trump, at least temporarily, from sending such troops to Oregon pending the resolution of the case. Now, this is going to go to an appeal court and then probably the Supreme Court, possibly. And we'll see, because the Supreme Court tends to be very MAGA and tends to rubber stamp anything Trump wants to do. I want to read you a few paragraphs from NBC News, including her mentioning martial law. Immergut wrote in her ruling that the U.S. Constitution grants Congress the power to call forth troops, the militia in the founding document, to execute laws, suppress an insurrection, or repel an invasion. The judge wrote that Trump's attempt to federalize the National Guard, absent constitutional authority, undermines the sovereign interest of Oregon. Quote, "This country has a long-standing and foundational tradition of resistance to government overreach, especially in the form of military intrusion into civilian affairs," she wrote. "This historical tradition boils down to a simple proposition. This is a nation of constitutional law, not martial law." That's quite interesting. Defendants have made a range of arguments that, if accepted, defendants meaning Trump, if accepted, risk blurring the line between civil and military federal power to the detriment of this nation. She's warning that Trump is trying to institute martial law in America. Pretty scary stuff, guys. Great that the judge stood up to him. I'm not convinced this is going to stand on appeal, because the Supreme Court, like I said, tends to rubber stamp everything this guy does.
A Trump-appointed federal judge blocked the Trump administration's ability to send the National Guard into Portland, Oregon, issuing a temporary restraining order for a period of 2 weeks while further briefing occurs. But at least for the next 2 weeks, Donald Trump cannot send the National Guard into Portland. This is a significant and stunning ruling from a judge that Donald Trump appointed during his first term, who is now ruling against him. He cannot say this was a Biden judge or this was some kind of Democrat-backed judge. This is a judge Donald Trump appointed, ruling against him, preventing him from deploying the National Guard into Portland. A stunning ruling. Even if it's a temporary one, it prevents Trump from doing so for a period of 2 weeks at least, if not longer. Spread the word, subscribe to my Substack at the link in my bio to support my work, and follow along to stay up to date on all the news you need to know about. More to come very soon.
This is a big breaking news alert. A Trump-appointed federal judge from the Federal District Court in Oregon just granted a temporary restraining order blocking Donald Trump's call-up of the National Guard in Portland, Oregon. The temporary restraining order is now put in place for a 14-day period. There will then be a subsequent hearing for a more permanent injunction or a more permanent restraining order. The federal judge who made this order is named Karen Immergut, and she was assigned the case after an Obama appointee disqualified himself after the Trump regime filed a motion to disqualify this federal judge, Simon. So it got assigned to a Trump-appointed judge, Judge Immergut, who just ruled against Donald Trump. And the order, folks, was absolutely scathing. Let's go through the 31-page order right now. Let's go to the conclusion first. For the above reasons, this court grants plaintiff. Plaintiff is the state of Oregon, brought by their Attorney General Rayfield. It says, for the above reasons, the court grants plaintiff's motion for temporary restraining order and temporarily enjoins defendant's September 28, 2025 memorandum ordering the federalization and deployment of Oregon National Guard service members to Portland. The TRO expires 14 days on October 18, 2025, and the parties are ordered to comply with the attached TRO. The defendant's request to stay or administratively stay the temporary restraining order, see defendant's opposition to plaintiff's motion for temporary restraining order, is denied. It is so ordered, and this was dated on Saturday. The hearing took place on Friday. Judge Immergut started questioning the Trump regime lawyers right away and saying, you seem to be relying on a June memo regarding Los Angeles. Are you trying to somehow say that that relates to Oregon? And also, this judge was a former top federal prosecutor in Oregon. She was the United States attorney there in the early 2000s. She was appointed by Donald Trump in 2019, and so she knows the area well. And so she said that the assertions by the Trump regime that this is war-ravaged, that it requires a deployment of National Guard, that there's some sort of insurrection taking place or rebellion, or somehow that the state has not been able to control what's going on, the court said it's just untethered from the facts. I want to go through that portion. As Kyle Cheney writes, Judge Immergut, a Trump appointee to the bench, ruled that Trump's call-up was based on false claims about unrest in Portland and that Trump's own statements were simply
Hey, Oregon, Governor Kotek here. Today, the federal court ruled in Oregon's favor to block a military intervention in Portland. I believe the truth has prevailed. While this ruling is only the first step, it's a step in the right direction. I want to thank Attorney General Rayfield and his team for great work. We would hope that President Trump respects the court decision and the rule of law. We would hope he reverses course. There is no insurrection in Portland, no threat to national security. The only threat we face is to our democracy, and that threat is being led by President Trump. From day one, Oregon has been prepared. Our coordinated strategic response has allowed us to stand firm against a baseless and dangerous federal overreach. While the president plays politics, Oregon will stay focused on solving the real problems facing our communities. This ruling puts us on the right side of history. And while the fight is far from over, Oregon remains united and ready to defend our values and our rights today, tomorrow, and for as long as it takes. Thank you. Stay calm, stay together, and stay strong.
Portland just hit Trump with a fat ass nope just a little bit ago. A Trump-appointed judge, I'm serious, one of his own, blocked him from sending 200 National Guard troops into Portland. Like Gandalf in The Lord of the Rings, this judge literally said, "You shall not pass!" At least for 2 weeks, right? Now, Trump has been out here calling Democrat-led cities war-ravaged and saying ICE facilities are under siege. But Oregon? They're like, nah, bro. The protests here have been quiet for months. Now, Trump still has been jumping to his Truth Social, ranting about Antifa and domestic terrorists, and even gave the green light for the military to use full force if necessary. That's insane. Now, the governor of Oregon, she ain't having it either. She said loud and clear, Oregon can handle its own business. No federal invasion is needed. Now gets the step in. Well, that's not exactly what she said, but my bad. You get the idea, okay? Keep in mind, Trump already sent 800 troops into D.C. back in August. Remember that? So he isn't just flapping his gums, okay? He really is moving pieces. But for now, the courts and the governors are trying to slam the brakes on Trump's military play. Do you think he's going to appeal in 2 weeks and there will be military in Portland or not? What do you think? Comment down below. Hit that follow, hit that like. Let's start talking, y'all.
So this is breaking news back from Portland, Oregon. A federal judge has, about 30 minutes ago, blocked President Trump's orders to deploy a National Guard to Portland, Oregon. Judge says it's not going to happen. President Trump says it will happen. So, martial law, is it possible? I don't know. What do you guys think? It's gotten out of hand there. It's gotten bad. Earlier, Antifa had ICE agents literally blocked the police there, say, we can't help you, we can't do anything. They're Antifa. We're scared of them. Of course they are. Probably wouldn't even know what to do if they pulled up a girl and she said boo at them. It'd probably terrify them, I had to guess. Just a little inside joke, but we're dealing with Portland, Oregon police, so nothing surprises me at this point. But President Trump is tweeting on X, so I feel something big is fixing to come. We shall see.
A Trump-appointed judge, Judge Karen, so MAGA can say that is an Obama or deep state judge, just blocked the government from sending troops to Portland, Oregon. And the reason why is because she said that the requisition from the president is untethered to the reality and facts. Basically, he's fucking nuts. But then she went a step farther. Then she went a step farther and gave a warning to the rest of us. She said that if she were to allow these troops to go into Portland when they're not needed, basically, we would be one step closer to martial law. And you can see here what she said. And she said that she was not going to take that step. Basically, what she's saying is that if you're sending troops without a valid need or a lawful excuse, then you're basically creating a police force for the president and the executive power that is allowed to do whatever the fuck they want, which is what they've been doing in DC and Chicago and other areas. So she gives the warning to keep our eye open because we're one step closer to a martial law state. So the more MAGA denies it, the more reality it becomes. And this is the kind of shit that eventually is going to turn around and bite all those MAGA supporters right in the rear. I'm Alex. This is my rant, and I'm out.
A federal judge from Oregon just served Donald Trump a major blow in his effort to deploy National Guard troops in Portland. Federal Judge Karen J. Immergut has blocked Trump's order to send the Guard into Portland. She calls it an unconstitutional use of military force on U.S. soil. The judge said that the Trump team failed to prove that there was any violent emergency that justified overriding the state of Oregon, and warned that this plan threatened state sovereignty under the Constitution. She even pointed out that Trump was using social media posts as his justification for declaring an emergency, and said that that's not a legally valid trigger to deploy troops. The ruling is a win for Oregon and the city of Portland, who sued what they called an unlawful takeover of law enforcement. The White House says it'll appeal the decision, claiming Trump has the authority to protect federal assets. But for now, the court has drawn a clear line. Presidents can't use the military against American civilians without a real emergency and due process. Judge Karen Immergut halts Donald Trump's plan for now. Stay tuned for more.